My dad and Uncle Harry Pōhio used to talk a lot about it, and although my sister and I were very young, we used to listen. We didn't really understand what they were talking about, but we actually thought they were talking about movies at that time, because they were talking about my dad being on night duty up on Chunuk Bair, and he was on night duty this night, and he got up to stretch his leg, and he just walked to the end of the hill, and just around the hill he ran to a Turk, and that's when they fought each other, and my dad's partner that was on duty with him came out and shot him. We always remember Uncle Harry and them talking about it, and it was, my bloody hand was shaking so much. I don't know who I was going to hit. I aimed and fired, and we always remember, and we thought he was crying. You know, we really didn't understand it, but we do now. I think when he came back mentally, he was disturbed, and I would say it would be over the cruelty of the war. But I remember them having to sleep in among dead people, and I do remember that they only had one suit, and that's what they left New Zealand in and came back in. They had one good suit which they were allowed to get into if there was a parade of some sort for a brigadier or whoever. Their wages was something like 2 and 6pence or 3 shillings a week compared to Australia. It didn't just go for the Maori battalion, Maori contingents. It also went for the European soldiers as well. John Rickus, he was actually the bugler. They were the second reinforcements that were to be sent. They weren't sent. They were sent about 1917, 1918. The war was over. Uncle Jack was the only one in Temuka, in Timaru, that could play a piano, and every time they had banquets and evenings, they had to call on him to play the piano. But he played by ear because he was a bugler. He was very hard at times, very hard. I remember that sometimes he got into a rage very quickly, with no particular reason at all. It was small things like that looking back, I think he was mentally disturbed. Probably thinking back of the hard, heavy times that they had during the war. And let's face it, they were sent over there, really, weren't they, to dig the trenches. And then when they finished digging the trenches, they swapped their spades for guns and sent them up the hill. The Turks fight like Maoris, and they thought that the Maoris were a fine match for the Turks. That's why they was originally sent over. Tika was the one that gave the orders, and he said they were at the bottom of the hill, and he said to his contingents, charge, and that's when they broke out doing the haka. And the other units heard the haka and they all joined in. Their first reaction was, they're at it again. I remember my dad and them talking about that.